I hope they can look in the mirror and be like, no, my mom taught me that I'm beautiful and I'm strong and I am. So I really hope they can look at my videos one day and be like, yeah, that's my mom. She did that.
Welcome back to Long Island TikTok, where we talk all things Long Island and social media with local content creators. Whether she's trying on clothes in a dressing room or putting together a stroller in her living room, Katherine Schiro is not afraid to show her 500,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram all the relatable parts of her life. As a new mom of two, her content has been focused mostly on mom life, fashion, and the little moments of her days I think we can all relate to. We'll be talking to her about balancing working on social media and being a full-time mom, what it's actually like behind the scenes of content creation, and of course, some Long Island life mixed in there too. So let's get started. Welcome, Katherine.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks for coming. So let's get right into it. Why and when did you decide to make content creation your full-time job? And what's one thing you did differently when you first started posting on social versus now?
I always wanted to start social media actually for like years before I even started doing any of it. But I always thought because of my body, it was just like such a body image issue where I was like, oh, I'm not attractive enough. I don't have the body type. Like I would never thrive on social media. And then one day my parents went viral.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So my parents are Big Al and Vicky, and they're the spectacular, give me 14 more. And when I saw them go viral, I was like, okay, I can do this. Because my dad's not this young, fit looking dude, you know what I mean? I was like, I could totally get behind this. And then I started helping them with their social media. So for about 2 to 3 months, I was like the behind the scenes, helping them coordinate videos, editing all their videos, and kind of like giving me the leeway, like how to do it from the back end. And then once I kind of got them up and going, I was like, it's my turn. And at first, I really didn't know exactly the content that I wanted to do. I just wanted to do it. So I started making vlogs. I started dabbling a little bit into fashion. But at that point, I wasn't even secure in myself still. So like clothing was like, I'm hiding under them at that point. And then as I kept going, I was like, I see all these influencers. And I'm like, I want to dress like them. I just wish I could dress like them in my body. And then that's when everything kind of started to transpire, where it was like, I want to find clothing that look as good as they do on them, on me. And that's when I started going to the dressing rooms. And the next thing you know, it's like one of the videos just exploded on TikTok. And I was like, whoa. Like I was anticipating, I was really hoping for it to happen, but it's just, you never know with social media when something could really pop off.
Sure.
And it was about a year. I was about a year into like just trying everything out. I was super consistent. I was posting like twice a day. And then it was a year from like this month.
Oh, wow.
Last year.
Wow.
That everything kind of exploded. Instagram first and then TikTok followed.
What was that video that went viral of yours?
So on Instagram, it was what people expect plus size people to wear versus how we should be dressing our body. And then on TikTok, it was a dressing room try on in Walmart where there were like certain things I was trying on and I was like, what the heck is this? Like, what is going on? And I was getting upset, but at the same time, I was finding clothes where I was like, oh, okay, so this looks good versus this does not. And it ended up just going crazy. And all the videos that I had posted similar to that beforehand started all increasing too. And I want to say like overnight, there was over like 100,000 followers. It was kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was like rapid fire for
It was
you.
rapid.
So it was really the fashion that got you started.
Yeah, and it was something that I really wanted to do. I just didn't know how to initiate it at first because I was still so self-conscious. But then once I started doing the try-ons and actually finding clothing that like made me feel so secure with myself is when it all kind of was like, no, this is the niche I want to be in.
Yeah.
Like I love doing lifestyle videos. I love doing like funny little videos with my husband and like my daughter. But I was like, I really knew I wanted to be in the fashion realm because like, for me, being that insecure and like I knew clothing was like such a big factor of it. Once I started finding the right clothing and it started making me feel so secure about myself that I knew if for me it could happen, for others that are still in the shadows, it could happen for them too.
I love that.
Yeah.
Have people reached out to you after you know, all of your like dressing room hauls and saying like, you know, they feel like you brought something in them and they're able to feel confident in their body too?
There's one thing that I'm really proud of myself with my platform is that I have definitely created a community where like I do have girls that reach out to me all the time and they tell me like how much they have learned to love themselves and like genuinely try like different and new clothing. Cause like there are so many things that you see like in the stores where you wouldn't even think to pick them up because you're like, no, that's automatically not gonna look good. And like I show in a lot of my videos that like those items that you think won't look good are gonna look amazing on you. You just gotta give it a try. But it's like it's hard because you don't want to be in the dressing room too, like, oh, this is horrible, like so defeated. So it's a tricky realm.
Yeah, that's something everyone can relate to.
Absolutely. And where do you get your inspiration for your style? Or do you just kind of like to go to the stores and dictate your style from what you see on the rack?
It's really just like what I see on the rack. It's not like anything specific. Obviously, there are people where I like look at outfits on them and I'm like, oh, your girl needs that right now. You know what I mean? And then there are other things where it's like, maybe it wouldn't look good on them, but maybe it would look good on me. Like, you just never know until you try it on. And I'm like a huge, like, I push for that. Like, you just gotta try it on.
What do you feel like is the major difference between other content creators and mom creators?
I mean, it really depends, I feel like, on your niche. There's 3 factors if you really want this to, like, work for you. It's relatability, entertainment, and, like, comedy. And if you could do one of those 3 things within, like, social media, you are golden. Because depending on what someone's doing, whether it's mom life, whether they're doing fashion, whether they're doing beauty, whether they're doing like little skits, like I follow so many different influencers and content creators where like they do these funny skits and like it really draws me in because it's so entertaining. Once you do have a niche, and like this can also play into the factor of like the algorithm. When you do have like a set niche, sometimes the algorithm's against you if you try to go outside of that. So like I know when I'm doing my mom life videos, I love doing those videos because I really do love showing like the relatability of myself during the day. Because I know I'm not the only one. Like there's no way I'm the only slob with 2 kids. Like there's no way. You know, not everything is pristine and clear. Like I see these influencers' homes and they're all like perfect coded and I'm like, that could never be me. Like it just can't.
You just recently became a mom of 2.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. How has that changed the way you work and create your content?
Okay, so this one is a huge shout out to my husband because I could not do any of this without him. We call him Mr. Mom because he's mommy, like
Mommy?
Daddy.
Mommy?
I'm a mom.
Mamacita.
Daddy, but mommy. I knew when we first had our first daughter how incredible of a father he was. And like, I was really nervous because we found out I was pregnant like 3 months after all this happened. Not to say we weren't trying because we were trying for like a year and a half, but the month that we gave up and I was like, I'm done, was the month we ended up finding out I was pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And as excited I was because it was something that I longed for so long, it was also in the back of my head because I'm human. I'm finally getting the career that I really wanted going. And it's like, how am I going to be able to do both? But I am grateful because my husband is so hands-on with the girls. Like, if there was somebody I could draw out with everything that I would want in a person, it was my husband. Aww. And I'm really grateful for him because he's actually going part-time at work to stay home to help because of this full
because
time.
Of content.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would say being able to like handle all of this would really be because of him. Like I can't even take credit. But the shift in it was definitely a lot because I was like, how am I going to be able to do this? Especially with postpartum. Postpartum the first time around was horrible. For like the first, I want to say 6 months, I was drowning. And it was really hard. And it was probably one of the reasons why it took us 2.5 years to even contemplate trying again. Just because I was so nervous with the postpartum. Yeah. And while I was pregnant with my first one, I had prenatal partum. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
It's like prenatal depression.
Yeah.
So it's basically like what you would think postpartum depression is, but while you're pregnant.
Yeah. It's
like everything coming to, you realizing things are changing. All those different factors started happening. And It was something I was worried about with this pregnancy. And it did happen a little bit, not as much, just because my family, my husband, they were definitely more on top of me this time. And I think doing content creation kept me in my bubble and my sanity because of the community and sharing my life. And like, I always had somebody that I could talk to about something. It didn't matter what it was. One of my followers, somebody would reach out and we would be able to talk about things. And it was almost like they were mini therapy appointments, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
But then giving birth, I didn't know what it was going to be like postpartum life, which was definitely worrisome because of my first experience. But this time I handled it differently. Like my first time around, I felt like breastfeeding could have been something for me as to why it like mentally drained me or whatever the case may have been. And this time I just took different routes, and I feel like mentally I haven't had an issue yet. I'm 8 weeks postpartum. I don't know if things can start creeping up later on within like the year, but mentally I feel like I've been night and day from my first time around. So doing the content creation, it's definitely been easier because my husband's home helping, because of the community, because my mental health is like definitely in check this time around. But it's definitely been like completely different. And I think the social media aspect helped me a lot, like the sense of community.
Yeah. I actually love that. I feel like that's kind of a 180 from what a lot of people say, because a lot of people say that social media is, you know, like a place where all the trolls are going to be commenting.
They're there.
Yeah, and it almost makes you feel like worse in a way. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it helped bring community for you and almost was like therapy sessions, I feel like that's really inspiring.
Don't get me wrong, okay?
You have
The
to
trolls are bad. They're like, they're trolling, you know what I mean? Like, they're not nice. And I get a lot of hate in my comments, especially in my try-on hauls. If you've ever gone through my comments, don't, because they're nasty, like they're bad. Sometimes, it really depends on the video, because people are like, well, don't you want to change that? And that's a whole other story because of like the weight gain and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know if I could do this because of how nasty people could genuinely be on the internet. And then I remember having a talk with my mom, because this was after everything kind of already happened with them. And she was like, you have to remember that these people that are trolling you on the internet are miserable, because no happy person's running to the internet and putting somebody else down. And it was that flip of the switch. And in that moment, I knew that I wasn't the problem. It was the people hiding behind a fake profile.
Absolutely.
And from there on, it like, not to say it doesn't bother me, because sometimes like somebody says something really nasty or like pisses me off, I'll be like, oh, you know, and sometimes I'll fight back with them, which is probably not the best thing in the world. But it doesn't bother me anymore. Like, if you want to talk bad about me based off of the 2 seconds you see of my life on the internet, go for it, because that's an issue within yourself, not me. I don't know. They don't bother me anymore though. So
good.
For now.
And it shouldn't. But we even get trolls on the internet for Newsday comments too. Yeah. Never go in a Newsday comment.
Most of them are all like users 1423.
Yeah, it's like XYZ your mother. Like, who knows who they are.
And it's like, God forbid we post a lighthearted story and they're like, slow news day? And it's like,
oh
man.
my goodness.
Tough crowd.
Can never win.
So you wanted to start a MomTok on Long Island. Talk about that.
It was when everything kind of happened, when like season 1 of like Secret Lives of Mormon Wives came out. And I was like, that's so funny, because like we have like, me and a few of my girlfriends are like so close, and all our kids are the same age. So we're always all together. And I was like, this would be so fun. Like, let's just do it. The video exploded, that one specific video. And then girls were like, I want to join. So we actually did. We ended up like doing like a meet at like one of the vineyards on the island.
Oh, wow.
And we started doing TikToks together and all that. But then it's like, it becomes hard because there's kids involved. So it's like schedules, everything like that. But it was really fun while we did it. Had it continued, I don't know.
I feel like we saw something about like a MomTok podcast in the works. Did that go anywhere?
It didn't go anywhere, but we did do it for like I want to say 4 or 5 months. And the podcast itself was where like people sent in anonymous stories on like things that were happening. So like crazy, wild, like drama,
Oh, wow.
tea, but everything was like anonymous. We had no idea who it was that was sending us in. And then on the podcast, we would sit there, me and 2 of my girlfriends, and we would go over like our own opinions on it.
Okay.
And some of them were just like kind of wild, and like we would fight. Like they would be off camera. Like I'll never forget last Friendsgiving, it was a war zone in my house.
Oh, no.
Because we were still
God.
arguing over a topic, and it was in that moment where we knew we could not do it.
Oh, wow.
Too many opinions.
That's tea.
I think this could be a series better than Secret Lives of Mormon
I
Wives.
know.
We need to get Hulu on here.
It was fun. It really was. It was a good time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of responses for these anonymous?
We got a good amount. I wouldn't say it was anything crazy because at that point, I was in the process of trying to grow my following. So it wasn't when anything kind of exploded yet. It was like right before it did. But I was still in the process of like gaining like little here, little there. And we would have people send us in their drama and their tea. We'd sit there and just talk about it.
I love that.
What was your favorite
Yeah,
piece of drama that
Oh
they
my
sent in?
God. Okay, so this one's very controversial. It was basically a girl had reached out to us and told us that she had like a love affair with her teacher when she was in high school, and she did not, she never regretted it. And we sat there all talking about it, and it was, as you know,
Yeah.
so it's hard to discuss something like that, but we all had a lot of opinions on it.
Oh, wow.
Because 2 of my girlfriends are in an age gap relationship. One of them, her husband's 15 years older, so they looked at it like, well, if it's 2 consenting, and we were like, no, because they're under 18. It was a lot of controversy, and that was probably one of the biggest arguments at Friendsgiving. But
Wow. Wow. How to break a friend group.
because they were sitting there thinking like, wow, that's so touching, and I'm like, no, this is not touching. This is illegal. So I don't know. It was a lot.
I'm telling you, we got the first season of the Hulu show right here.
Just keep the cameras rolling at Friendsgiving next time.
It's funny because we say it all the time that we should just have cameras following us, because I'm telling you, it would be comedy gold.
I really feel that there should be a Long Island moms show. Like,
There should be. They're missing out because Long Island people are so funny
They
and just
are.
naturally like that type of way. It would be good TV.
way back when they used to have the Long Island
I was just
Princesses,
gonna bring that up.
and then that got canceled, I think, and then like ever since there was never like a
What were the Long
Housewives.
Island princesses?
It was a group of ladies, and they were the princesses.
It was like a reality show.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was similar to a Housewives,
Okay.
but I don't think that they were married at the time. So
Okay.
they were just
younger.
living
They
their
were like in their early 20s.
Yeah,
or
they were
so.
living
So it was
their
just
single
following
lives
these
and-
girls and their lives on Long Island and
Interesting.
drama.
yeah.
so
I
it was
think-
a hit show.
It was, yeah. But ever since then, there hasn't been a Long Island show.
They should be.
You're missing out.
At
yeah.
Hulu, at Bravo.
For
Put
real.
me in, coach. I'm ready.
Is there a specific kind of Long Island mom experience or stereotype that you've either fully embraced or you've tried to avoid altogether?
Fully embrace or avoid altogether.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I've only been on the island for about 8 years. I'm not native here. I'm a city girl, born and raised.
Okay.
So I feel like there are still so many things about Long Island that I just don't really know. I have mom friends that were born and raised here, and they say all the time how like they consider themselves vineyard girls versus brewery people. Like there are just like so many different things. As far as like that, I really don't. I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What brought you guys to Long Island?
My husband was born and raised here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's from out east, and I was born and raised in the city.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Long Island before moving out here, or
Not
being so
really.
close? And
Not really, because I was in Queens, so
Okay.
if I went anywhere, it was always in the city.
Right.
I mean, as I like hit college, I started like Rockville Center, but I don't consider that like out east. in a sense, you know?
Yeah.
Friends of mine from like high school had houses in like Greenport that we would go to sometimes, but like it was never like we hung out here. And if we did, it was at like somebody's home in the Hamptons or like in Greenport.
Okay, so like way out east.
Yeah, like way out. There was no in between at all. At all.
None of the middle of the island.
None.
I feel like it's such a typical Long Island kid experience to like go to the city very often. So it's funny you don't hear
To
the
see,
other
like,
way
the-
around. Yeah.
Opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's one thing that surprised you about Long Island since you lived here?
The property. The property size. The fact that you get that much property with your home, and I'm not even kidding, because living in Queens, even like where we were, it was like kind of borderline Nassau, even though it's not. And like where my parents live, like we have a backyard. You know, it's not like it's the size of this room. Maybe a little bigger, actually. But like growing up in that specific area and having like that much property, I always thought like that's just how it was. Unless you're like directly next to farmland, which my mom would always like laugh and joke with me because she would be like, I used to go out there like past exit 53 were just all farms. And I'm thinking in my head when she's telling me these stories pre ever coming out here that like it's just farmland out here. So like why am I going to come out here?
I guess so.
Which is probably why I never did come out here, for being honest. But obviously things change, and that was like different generation. But I would say, especially like where I live specifically, we are close to farmland. So it was definitely like a
transition.
Yeah, it was like a culture shock almost. I remember the first time seeing chickens run across the street, and I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like, this is crazy. Is this normal? My husband's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean?
Just another Tuesday.
I'm sorry, like this is normal?
Oh my god.
But I found it so interesting because it really was like a culture shock thing coming from the city and living out here.
Yeah.
But I do love being close to all the vineyards and the breweries, and then there's like a lot of like, not to say that there aren't fun things to do with the kids in the city, because there is, but I feel like you have so many play places out here, and that's like so fun.
Yeah.
Especially as a mom.
It's more family friendly.
It is
think
definitely
so.
family friendly.
Yeah. So is your husband from Suffolk?
He is.
Okay, so he was probably like, yeah, this is like no big deal.
He's like, what do you mean? There's chickens all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay.
He knows the farmlands.
He knows. One of his really good friends owns a farm out east. So he's like, yeah, the goats, the chickons. And I'm like, oh, okay.
There's a wild turkey around the
It's crazy, honestly.
So how did you meet?
Costco.
Wow.
You have
Love
to
it.
elaborate
Love
on
it.
that.
Honestly, you really don't hear that anymore.
Exactly.
it's- You never hear people meeting at a grocery store anymore.
Okay, so my husband worked for Costco.
Okay.
And I worked with a marketing company where, like, have you ever seen those people in there where it's like, hey, what cable provider do you use? That was me. That was little old me.
Okay.
And I trained a lot of the people in the different Costcos all around the island. And I remember when I was in Costco, I went up to like one of the employees and I was like, "Who's the really good-looking ginger guy in the in the car department over there?" They were like, "Oh, his name's Andrew," and I was like, "Give him my number."
Aw.
And they ended up giving him my number, and it was really funny because the day he texted me, I thought it was like one of the people that I was in the process of training for my company. I thought it was a client of his trying to reach out because at the time it was DirecTV. That was like the company we worked with. And he was like, "Hey, James gave me your number." And I was like, "Oh, how can I help you?" Until this day, he tells me all the time, like I almost didn't respond back. And obviously I'm glad he did, but it's not like any sort of crazy story. It was just that we were both there at the same time. And I have a really big mouth, so I totally initiated it. But
Yeah.
We love to see it.
Yeah. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about setting boundaries with your children and social media.
Yeah.
How have you kind of established that as a mom?
I used to definitely include my little one Scarlett, she's 5, into like my little alpha videos because there was this trend last year, and it kind of became our little thing where it's like, my mommy wants to show you her outfit, so you better be nice. Or it's like, my daughter wants to show you her outfit, so you better be nice. And we started doing a lot of those, and she loves doing it with me. And then somebody wrote something really nasty to me. in a comment where it was like the most horrifying comment you could probably get, where it was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but they basically told me that they hope she gets hit by a car.
Oh my
And you
goodness.
watch the light from her eyes drown. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Oh my
so I like
God.
slowly reverted them back off of social media because I really didn't like that. And it's been a transition, but then my daughter is like, Mommy, but I want to do a video here, I want to do there. And like those boundaries really do need to be set up because there are a lot of haters and trolls on the internet. So it's been a little bit of a transition, especially with everything that's happening with the internet right now.
Sure.
But as far as like setting those boundaries, it's like I want to, but at the same time, it's like social media is just supposed to be like fun and silly, like, you know what I mean? It's like careless. So
It's a hard battle.
it is. It's really hard because like at the same time she wants to do with me, and then it's like, no, like you can't do this with me right now.
Right, and then trying to explain why is also really difficult too.
Yeah, because I won't tell her why.
Sure.
Yeah, she's too little. Like she shouldn't even understand the aspect of it yet. To her, it's like we're just making silly little videos.
Sure. And that's what it should be.
Exactly. That's literally all it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, social media is a scary place with children. And as much as I don't recommend it, at the same time, it's like you should have boundaries in place.
Yeah.
But also, like, I love being able to share it because it is a highlight reel.
Yeah.
And, like, I want to keep that for myself because at some point I'm going to have to delete everything off this phone. It's not going to be able to be backed up. And, like, I do want to have it as a highlight reel.
Yeah. It's also, it became your full-time job.
Yeah.
So, you know, trying to emulate like your personal life, that she is a huge part of your personal life.
100%.
So yeah, I completely understand that battle.
Going off of that, I mean, if your children, once they're grown up, go back and watch your content one day, what do you hope that they get from it?
That they're strong, independent girls and women. Like, I feel like that's like one of my biggest things with social media is like empowering ourselves and like in the sense of like body image. Like, I don't ever want them to look at themselves and be like, oh, I'm fat. Oh, I'm ugly. Like, no, I want you to be able to look in the mirror and be like, you are beautiful and you are strong. And I feel like I've had a lot of people at least tell me that that's how they see my content as, and I really hope so, because that is like the whole mission statement is like, you are strong, you are powerful, you are beautiful. Like, as a woman, doesn't matter what your size is, doesn't matter any of that. And like, I really hope that they grow up and like, no matter what size they are, what they look like, whether they have pimples, they don't have pimples, like it doesn't matter. I hope they can look in the mirror and be like, no, my mom taught me that I'm beautiful and I'm strong and I am. So I really hope they can look at my videos one day and be like, yeah, that's my mom. She did that.
Awesome.
Yes, love that. Mic drop. All right, so we'll end on this last question. What parts of motherhood do you feel that people really don't talk about enough, and they should?
As far as
I should say on social media.
on so everything, half of the actual like aspect of motherhood, I feel like nobody really talks about like the struggles that we as women go through in itself. And then like, especially when you give birth, like right after you give birth, like this time around, I'm very good. I'm very like clear-minded, but like a lot of people don't actually take into consideration that we as women struggle. Like apparently it takes up to 5 years to re-find yourself after giving birth, which is honestly a crazy thing to even think about.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because when I was looking into it, it was like all the different stages you go through until you hit that 5-year mark of like what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're looking at. And I feel like most people on social media are also afraid to just show their real life as far as motherhood. Yeah. Because, I mean, like the pile of dirty clothes or the dishes in the sink, like as relatable as it is, people don't want the hate on it, because at the end of the day, social media is like, they want the relatability, but they also don't want to see the relatability.
Yeah.
Because when they see the relatability, then you start getting those trolls in the comments where it's like, oh, that's disgusting. And it's like, don't lie, 0x25. Like, your sink is probably full right now. Sit your butt down.
Exactly.
Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, they want the relatability, but they don't want the relatability. Yeah. Motherhood is amazing. Having the babies are amazing. Knowing I have 2 little and still best friends are great. And I love that I can be home with them. And I love that I could do social media full time where I can take care of my family while also being home with them, even though it's a lot of work because because it really is a lot. But I love the whole aspect about it. But I feel like people need to just be more open with sharing their experiences, because there are so many things like the prenatal part of, like the prenatal depression during pregnancy. I thought it was just a me issue. And when I spoke about it this time around, like I was nervous about those things happening, people were messaging me like, I didn't know this was a thing. And it's like, yeah, because nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
Nobody talks about that real life, like things that we go through while we're pregnant, after we give birth, like things with our children. Like I remember I saw a little mark on my daughter and I was like, what is this? And I had like 10 people tell me what it was. And it was like, oh, I feel so much better. Like even if it wasn't the correct answer, it's just like the community aspect of it. But I didn't know.
Sure.
And it's like, I feel like I don't know, I feel like social media could be a great place and a horrible place at the same time. But I feel like there's a lot more good than there is bad from what I've seen.
Definitely.
Yeah.